Teotihuacan's moon pyramid? Was it just an ancient burial ground, or a temple that had significant ritual, political, and religious significance for the people of Teotihuacan? Introduction. Within the remains of the ancient Mesoamerican city of Teotihuacan sits the moon pyramid. Located on the northern end of the Avenue of the Dead, this monument was the second largest at Teotihuacan. Researchers began excavating the moon pyramid in the late 1990s and early 2000s. What they found reveals that the moon pyramid was constructed in phases over time. Within the pyramid, researchers found many skeletal remains. Was this just an early form of a cemetery for the people of this ancient city? Or can these skeletal remains give us more understanding into the political structure and religious beliefs of Teotihuacan? Astrological alignment at the moon pyramid. One of the major indicators that this pyramid was more than simply a graveyard for the dead is the alignment of the pyramid itself. According to recent research, the moon pyramid at Teotihuacan is aligned with certain astrological events. The vertices of the moon pyramid align with the sunrise during the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, and the sunset at the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. As this image on the slide shows, during these days of the year, the sun appears directly over the mountain-like temple. This suggests that the society at Teotihuacan had advanced knowledge of cosmic events. It also indicates that these dates held significant religious and ritual purpose in the society of Teotihuacan. Tlaloc and the moon pyramid, water and war. Tlaloc, a Mesoamerican god long associated with rain and water, perhaps carried additional significance for the people of Teotihuacan. Recently, further academic research has been published on the subject. One such article is Blood and Water, a Mesoamerican Cement. In it, Annabeth Hedrick suggests that, as well as the god of rain, the people of Teotihuacan viewed Tlaloc as the god of war. Furthermore, the people of Teotihuacan believed that war and human sacrifice pleased the god Tlaloc. And as a reward, the god would bring rain to the people of Teotihuacan. Evidence found at the moon pyramid in Teotihuacan lends credit to this research. When the pyramid was excavated in the late 1990s and early 2000s, vessels were found that symbolized the god Tlaloc. It is theorized that these vessels were used as part of a water-pouring ritual during military human sacrifice. Human sacrifice at the moon pyramid. Ritual human sacrifice held important significance in Teotihuacan. People in this society believed that human sacrifice brought rain. The image in this slide shows evidence of human sacrifice. Recent research has analyzed the skeletal remains of the sacrifice victims that were found during the excavations at the moon pyramid that took place during the 90s and 2000s. In their article, The Human Skeletal Remains of the Moon Pyramid, Teotihuacan, Michael W. Spence and Gregory Piera analyzed Burial 2, one of the earliest burials at the moon pyramid. They found that at this burial, only one sacrifice victim was located. However, as researchers continued excavating, they found that burials that took place in later years had more victims found in the same grave. Additionally, there seems to be an increased level of brutality in which the sacrifice victims at the moon pyramid were killed. The skeletal remains at later burial sites within the moon pyramid were even found decapitated. After death, these victims were further brutalized. Researchers found evidence that the skulls of sacrifice victims were used in rituals and religious practices after they were killed. Who was sacrificed at the moon pyramid? After the first excavation of the moon pyramid, questions still remained about those sacrifice victims. Who was chosen to be sacrificed? Were these victims members of society at Teotihuacan, or were they from other areas? Intrigued by these questions, researchers Christine D. White, Douglas T. Price, and Fred J. Longstaff have sought out answers. Using new scientific methods of analyzing skeletal remains, such as analyzing tooth enamel, researchers were able to determine that the victims found at the Moon Pyramid were brought to Teotihuacan from other locations. These victims appear to have been born and spent the majority of their lives in other areas of Mexico, potentially from the Maya lowlands. Additionally, researchers compared their findings of sacrificial victims found in the Moon Pyramid and those found at the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Interestingly, they discovered that the sacrifice victims found at the Moon Pyramid were killed shortly after their arrival to the city of Teotihuacan. However, those that were found in the Temple of the Feathered Serpent were actually kept alive in Teotihuacan for a period of time before they were sacrificed. These fascinating discoveries suggest that there were perhaps different purposes for those victims taken to the Moon Pyramid as opposed to those taken to the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Animals at the Moon Pyramid. Humans were not the only ones who met their fate at the Moon Pyramid. During the excavation of the Moon Pyramid, several monumental constructions were found, in addition to 5 burial complexes. Within these burial sites, remains of animals such as pumas and eagles were found, as well as human sacrifice victims. The image in this slide shows one of these burial sites, with both human and animal remains. This suggests that perhaps animals were also used as sacrifices in religious rituals. However, one of the most interesting findings was remaining evidence of cages surrounding the animal remains. This evidence was discussed in the article titled Stable Isotopes and Zoo Archaeology at Teotihuacan. Mexico reveals earliest evidence of wild carnivore management in Mesoamerica by Nawa Sugiyama, Andrew D. Somerville, and Margaret J. Schoinger. The researchers conclude that this evidence may indicate that the animals were kept in ritualistic captivity or some sort of zoo before they were eventually sacrificed. Scientists then analyzed the bones of these animals found in the Moon Pyramid, just as they had done with the human victims. Results of these studies indicate that the animals were fed a diet of mainly maize, which is further evidence of these animals being held in captivity. These findings may show that dangerous predatory animals held powerful political or religious significance in Teotihuacan. Conclusions. Before the late 1990s, little was known about the Moon Pyramid. Many questions about this ancient temple went unanswered, even until recent years. Technological advancements in science have allowed further study of the Moon Pyramid and the skeletal remains of those found there. These findings provide further evidence that this pyramid was not simply a burial ground, but it held important religious, political, and ritual purpose for those living at Teotihuacan. From analyzing the bones of those found within the pyramid to interpreting the location of the pyramid itself and its alignment with astrological events, it is now clear that the Moon Pyramid was an important element in the ceremonies and religion of the city.